All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us for TMC Connect. Really do appreciate it. My name is Tony Bramley, and I'm the Director of Business Development here at the Mortgage Collaborative. Today, we have a great panel with us. We're going to be talking about the planning for 2023, how to recoup revenue, save costs, and drive loan volume in an uncertain market. With us today and co-hosting our webinar is Maxwell. Maxwell is a longtime partner of the Mortgage Collaborative. We love you guys. Thank you so much for being here, as well as Donnell with Thrive. And want to let you know that Maxwell is, they offer comprehensive technology for addressing the entire lending process from point of sale to secondary market. A couple of things we want to just go over real quick. You have come in on mute, but we do want this to be interactive. So please feel free to drop your comments or questions in the chat, and we will try to address those at the end of the conversation. If we don't get to them, we will follow up with you after the fact. There will be a follow-up email that comes out in the next few days. It'll include a report of all the things that have been discussed here, as well as a link to this recording. So thank you all so much for being here. I want to just jump right in. First of all, want to have our panelists introduce themselves.
Well, I'll kick it off. I'm Danielle Geiser, VP of Operations for Thrive Mortgage. We're a large IMB based out of the Austin, Texas area, just a little bit north of downtown Austin in Georgetown, Texas.
Great, I can go next.
Go ahead, Alan.
So Alan Paris, Vice President of Private Label Origination here at Maxwell, and excited to be here today. I apologize in advance for two things. One is if there's a screaming 14-month-old in the background, the joys of working from home. And then secondarily for this awkward camera angle where I don't know if it's the view of my keyboard or whatever, but I've got an internet outage, so I'm running on my iPhone right now. So apologize.
This is Jim Smith. I'm a Senior Vice President with Maxwell Diligence Solutions. I run the due diligence group as well as quality control solutions for the company. And I'm a certified mortgage banker. And I'm watching the snow buckets outside here in Golden, Colorado. So just seeing a lot of white stuff come down, which is actually pretty cool.
Hi, I'm Peggy Rebedew. I'm a correspondent account executive with Maxwell Capital. I've been in mortgage banking for over 20 years, and half of that time have been spent in the correspondent lending space. Prior to joining Maxwell, I actually built an international mortgage TPO channel. So I will say, with the white stuff coming down, I'm missing Mexico.
I think maybe we all are.
Absolutely. I love all the sunny and the people who are bragging about the sunshine in the comments in the chat. So thank you so much for that. So, well, you know what? Here's the scene that we have today, right? Rising rates, declining volumes, suffering profitability, lenders closing their doors. That's what we're hearing in the news today. MBA's forecast, the new forecast, it says recession is coming, possibly the first half of 2023, and then anticipates a 9% production decline. Is that a conservative prediction? I don't know. So with all these evolving factors, we want to take a look at 2023. We know that planning for this feels pretty daunting. But we've got a panel of experts here that are going to help us to kind of sort out all those feelings and help us to get ahead of how to plan for 2023. So I want to ask the first question to the panelists. What areas of opportunity should lenders consider going into the new year? Alan, I'll start with you.
Yeah, so I'll preface this by I've never run a mortgage lending company, so I can only speak to what I hear and who I talk to on a regular basis. But I think we don't know where the forecast is going. I think, but in a way, it doesn't matter whether it's 9% down or 15% down or somewhere in the middle. I think what we keep hearing is every loan matters, and so lenders who are leaning in and looking to expand to find that extra loan volume. And so there's a lot of ways you can do that. So we're hearing community banks expanding state footprints. We're hearing product expansion. We're hearing channel expansion. We're even hearing people who are saying, hey, we're going to move away or kind of supplement our current marketing and kind of sales team initiatives and hire digital strategists to go buy leads in online. So, I think what's important is go finding where you think you can fit in that best. But the constant theme is you got to find every loan that matters and making sure you're suited to capture that.
I agree with you 100%. And really just looking at your strategy and looking at the markets that you serve, right? So what we did last year, what we did in 2020 isn't going to work this year, isn't going to work next year, most likely. And so just making sure that you have that importance of really knowing your market and meeting your market on the streets. How do we sell the products we have in our own streets, in our own backyards? And so really, for us, it's a lot of education, because you've got a lot of loan officers that are looking at products that they've had in their toolkit, but maybe it's got dust on it. They need to dust it off, redeploy it, everything from 2-1 buy downs to ARMs. I mean, I know I have loan officers that I need to get in this business to capture that single loan that they're trying to chase. So making sure that, you're spending that time with your teams to educate, to expand, as you touched on, Alan, some of your existing channels, your non-QM, your broker options, and looking at those, to capture additional marketplace in your current market that you're serving. So, just making sure that you're not, reaching out for that unattainable market, but really looking at the quality that you're bringing in, creating new solutions, and really utilizing that toolkit that you have.
And maybe I'll piggyback off of that, Danielle, talk about some of the expense parts of the mortgage process. Obviously, there's a lot of components to originating a mortgage, but I think now more than ever, everyone has to look at every single step along the way and challenge that and see if there's a better way of doing it. Turn some of those costs into opportunities, into a revenue generating opportunity. Time is slow right now. Now's the time to do that. We see a lot of clients currently doing that with us today, especially in the QC space. A lot of people have done that internally, looking at the outsource set and even kind of expanding on just the scope of just the reviews itself. But, I think every component of the process has to be challenged and see, again, as technology, is there a better way of doing it, cheaper way of doing it without losing quality, obviously. And trying to obviously, and Danielle talking about the new mortgage products as well, making sure it fits the mortgage products as well. So yeah, definitely looking at this expense component.
Yeah, I would kind of like to add, number one is reducing costs and the unnecessary overhead that we have seen in the past. And, first and foremost is really assessing your technology and making sure that it's the best for your organization, that it actually brings a value and not a drag on your overall organization infrastructure. Definitely consider, adding additional solutions to assist in your workflow. It's incredibly important to partner with the correct person, company, and team out there. We're starting to see a lot of those things happening in the marketplace. And then certainly from a secondary marketing perspective, a capital market perspective, excuse me. How are you selling? Are you able to potentially, if you're in a full mandatory execution, switch over to a best efforts, assessing those costs associated with the hedge that you're putting on, and taking potentially some of those loans that you would have executed in mandatory and moving them over into a best efforts basis, or even moving your underwriting into a non-delegated underwriting capacity. So being able to create a flexible model for both your sales and your operations team is always a smart plan.
Donnell, you mentioned non-QM. I think that still has kind of a bad reputation to some people. Can you or Jim kind of maybe expand on how it's maybe different, how you guys are thinking about it, and how lenders can approach it?
Yeah, and I kind of touched on it, that education piece. That's been really big for us, and really engaging our non-QM partners, our lenders, our account executives to come in and not just educate our loan officers on what the product is, what the qualification and guidelines are. You can read those, but really, what is the borrower profile that we're looking for and putting these clients into this? What is going to actually make a difference and set that borrower up for success versus failure in 6 months or a year or 3 years from now. And so really that education piece has been so critical for us, and getting our partners, Peggy, to your point, making sure you've got great strategic partners that will come in and act as part of your own team, your own internal company team, to really drive that information, drive that education. And then how do you sell it? How do you look for that borrower? How do you know what product is right? And again, just that continued support with our AEs, especially on the broker side, and just, really looking at, are we doing the right thing at the right time for the borrower, and making sure that, that's always top of mind. We talk about if it's profitable, if it's legal, and if it's the right thing to do. Let's figure out a way how to do it, but making sure that, we're acting ethically as well, and not just throwing it against the wall and hoping that it sticks. So education on how to sell it.
I'd also like to share, I've been in New York this last couple of days, just got home early yesterday morning, and a lot of my clients are on the investors on Wall Street, kind of takeout exit strategy, especially in the non-QM space. And so I guess maybe a little note of positivity in this conversation is there's a lot of incentive. First of all, there's a lot of money being held by these funds. They have to deploy the funds. There's a lot of incentive for them to do so, and they're really, really anxious, looking for opportunities to be able to be creative. Non-QM, and I think to the question, or answer your question, Alan, non-QM, I think a lot of people just start going down to, well, that's kind of a subprime thing. It's not. Non-QM is a very, 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 very broad group of type of asset classes. The old 228s and 327s and IOs and all those kind of stuff really don't exist. Some of those toxic loans, but you're talking about DSCR, you're talking about NPL, RPL, talking about bridge fix and flip, short-term loans. So you're talking about a lot of different asset classes. I think, having the right partner and start asking about what type of products are out there that are safe, that are smart, they're ethical, that kind of fit your mold. There are partners like, Maxwell offers some opportunities to help, get into some of those channels if you can't do it yourself or don't want to do it yourself. So I think the right partners, and then ask those intelligent questions to kind of your investors, or kind of what is kind of the new product coming into the market, and see if that makes sense for you, because there are markets. This market actually has opportunity. And there are people that have needs that definitely the investor base is looking to fill. And I think you're going to see more and more of those products kind of start hitting the market. Again, I stress it's not subprime, so I don't think you have to freak out. It's going to be, a toxic loan that you're getting involved in. So I think getting a little more educated on some what those asset classes are, and then again talking to your partners as well as your investors.
Excellent. Thanks so much, guys, for that. This next question kind of goes right along into this conversation that you're already having. So launching products and channels, that is something that everyone's been talking about. So what should lenders know about going down that path? What are the best practices and possibly some common pitfalls?
Right. So, there are so many changes that are going on right now. What do you focus on? Right. Everybody is asking that question. So first you need, as a lender, to kind of determine, what does your market need? And are you actually chasing after all of these different things because someone has said that ultimately, oh, we need this or we need that? I see Danielle shaking her head yes and nodding, because that's the truth. From a sales perspective, you're looking at all of the opportunities out there that are available. But again, you have to really take the time and research what really is relevant in your marketplace, and are you capable of doing that product specifically in your marketplace. The same thing goes that Danielle said. We're not looking at the same audience as we did the same time last year. Everything has changed, and we know that going into 2023, it's going to continue to change. So, being all things to all people is going to be ultimately a huge endeavor to take in. I would say probably that's not the best plan of action. So that's kind of a pitfall, which is, as trying to chase as many things as we possibly can without the strategy of looking at those things that we, in fact, can do very, very well on our marketplace. So yeah, that's kind of where I would say we don't really want to focus on throwing everything out there, but yet focusing on specifically, strategically, how we're relevant in the marketplace with what we have to offer.
Could not agree with you anymore, Becky. I mean, of course, everybody wants that new shiny, product, object, tool that's out there, and company XYZ down the road has it. Why can't we have it? That's absolutely something that we focus on, is making sure that we've got buy-in. If we're engaging the teams to train, to learn, to add this, to their repertoire of knowledge base, and we want to make sure that it's used, because I see this time and time again. If you roll out a new product, it gets used once every 6 months, once a year. People forget how to originate it. They forget how to set it up. They forget, what documents are needed. And so when you do roll out a new product, if you're not actively using it, you're wasting resources, time, energy, and money, and learning that, bringing it in-house just to have it sit on the shelf. And then not to mention on the backside, when you get ready to sell it, the mistakes that then eat into your margin. And so it's important to get that engagement, to get that buy-in, to get that commitment, especially from the originators up front when you're talking about, a new product, and have them involved in the process, and make sure you have a process first and foremost, that there is, that you hit every department, and it's not just operations, it's not just the sales team, it's marketing. Does this fit into your brand that you are pushing out and trying to capture that market share? Again, it's about, meeting your market on the road that they're traveling on. Does this make sense? To your point, Peggy, does it make sense to bring this in-house? Does this make sense to offer it? Are we going to use it? And so those are all things that, I don't think a lot of time are factored into the ROI of creating a new product or channel and bringing it into the house, but you should, because it is time. And time, while we have a little bit more of it than we did last year, those are minutes, clicks, information that could be spent, process optimizing, if it's not going to be a product, that new shiny thing that just ends up sitting on the shelf.
Yeah, I think focus is key, as you guys are saying. I think where things are likely going to fail is if you do absolutely nothing, or if you try to do too much. And so understanding what your market needs, what the opportunity of, whether it's a product or a channel, what you fit best in. And then as you're launching that and focusing on those, whatever the right number is, 2, 3, I think it depends on your organization where you have skills, is figuring out what are we really best to solve in this launch or this new channel product initiative, and then going and figuring out how you can focus entirely on that to make it a success, whether that's finding partners to do the rest of it or bringing on skills in-house, but is evaluating and being honest on where do you have kind of core competencies and strengths for this to be successful, and not trying to do everything yourself if it's going to take a certain level of focus and resources to give it its best shot and success in the long run.
Thank you, guys. Yeah, that's definitely something to think about, and definitely something to consider. Jim, I want to ask you, we're talking a little bit about QC and due diligence. Could you elaborate a little bit on how you think that is a lever to boost revenue?
Yeah, it's kind of an oxymoron, right? So yeah, QC boost revenue. How's that equate? Yeah, it's an interesting conversation, because quality control and the minimum 10% sample selection that people have to do is always been viewed as, oh my gosh, I have to do this. I hate doing it. It's a cost. The only reason I'm doing it is because I have to do it. And and I completely get it. It is a pain in the neck sometimes, but I really challenge people to kind of take a look at that and say, how can I take that cost into a revenue opportunity? So one that really jumps to mind is adverse action. So, a pre-fund or an adverse action kind of scope review, where you have somebody like ourselves or a quality control firm look at that and say, hey, is that adverse action, that decline, the declination that's about ready to happen, is that the appropriate decision? And try to save some loans and say, if I can just save a few loans here and there, that I'm about ready to decline loan, because that's a coveted application, right? The borrowers aren't as many as they used to be. So if I can turn a no into a yes, that's a win. And so, I think it's a new paradigm. I love people to start looking, and I said it before, taking every cost into a potential revenue opportunity. I don't think quality control should be off the table. I think that is something too that you can take a look at, especially on a pre-fund. Now we do post-close and pre-fund. We're doing a heck of a lot more pre-fund review. Timing, obviously time is of essence, so you can't take a lot of time doing it because you got a borrower at play. Adverse action, jumps to mind. Definitely pre-close jumps to mind to see if, number one, you have to do it anyway. Number two, I think we're moving into a much more strict compliance environment. I go to a lot of conferences. I talk to a lot of people. I mentioned I'm in CMB and I'm on some committees and most people are talking about compliance. And so, number one, you have to do it. Number two, you're compliant. Number three, turn it into a revenue opportunity. I think you can do it even in quality control. So next time we have this conversation, it's not a, oh my gosh, I have to do it versus I like doing it because I add value to my company by doing it.
Mindset shift.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, mindset, exactly.
Reviewing it costs as a revenue potential. That's definitely a mindset. That's definitely
especially
a
quality
shift
control.
in the mindset.
I know. I'm sure when I said quality control, everybody probably grimaced when I said that. And I completely understand. No one likes to be told what to do, but I think I try to be the glass half full. I try to say, well, yeah, you have to do it, but how can we make this into something that's good for you, not just because you have to do it. So hopefully
I
we can
love
do
that. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Okay, we've shared some amazing content so far, so let's get into it. So the role of technology, how should lenders think about investing in this area when budgets are already strapped?
So that's something we took on this year. In light of everything, wouldn't change it, would have still put in as much as we did and the focus and the energy to it. Little thankful that we've had some extra time to really dive into it, but making sure that if you are investing in technology, that it is being used to the fullest. And that's something that I think we look at, we talk about, we've deployed people to really implement. You can build everything that you want to build, but if it's not actually being used and workflows aren't being optimized and you're not doing anything with that added capacity back to your teams that technology is implementing, a click here, a click there, it all adds up when you're looking at massive pipelines. And so if you've got a bot that's running task or order outs or setup, what are your teams doing now that they're not pushing those buttons and ordering and waiting for those things to come back? And so just making sure that you're implementing, that you are taking the time to really look at those workflows, reallocate that capacity back, optimize your systems, your teams, and then really just making sure that you're in place and ready for when that volume hits. Because I think everybody on this call has been in this industry long enough to know it's not if, it's when. And so, looking back, what did we learn from 2020 when everything hit all at once? It was try to fill as many seats as you possibly could with bodies. We don't want to repeat that. We want to do something different. And that's why we're investing so heavily in technology and then making sure it's fully implemented, because that's going to be our solution. When the volume hits, we've actually got capacity where we can put some of our other projects aside and really focus on that volume coming in to manage pipelines with the team that we have in place, because our technology, our bots are going to pick up that slack for us.
Yeah, I completely agree with Donnell. I think, the technology seems like it's always a polarizing topic at these moments where it's either we want to cut everything and not have a single extra expense, or we want to have technology in literally every single stage and try to, whether that's 10 vendors, 15 vendors, whatever the number is, to streamline as much as possible. And I think it's really important being thoughtful about it. I think, Donnell, you made good points of making sure your team is actually trained and using it. I think sometimes people would be surprised of how many technology partners don't have the adoption or the implementation plan that they should in the organization to make the maximum impact. And at the same time, making sure that's thoughtfully put together of, is it integrating your tech stack where it's actually adding value rather than, just another thing sitting in your process? And I think when you kind of start to look at the entire process and say, okay, where are the key points that technology could make a difference, and be thoughtful about the implementation, be thoughtful about its integration in your business. That's when you can see really interesting returns on investment and impact, even in kind of lower volume, but then especially as that volume grows in the future. So I think it's really finding the right partners. It's pushing the partners to make sure they're generating the results that you want and need for it to make an impact. So kind of finding the middle ground of getting away from the kind of polarizing nature of it, and kind of just looking objectively in your business of where it can impact be made is important.
Yeah, I'm going to take a little bit different approach. So I said I've been doing this for 32 years. So I've been doing this for a while and seen a lot of cycles. So one of the things I did is I was one of the co-founders of the largest loan modification companies in the United States. And back in the financial crisis in 2008, I think it was done manually. There was just no log. I wouldn't say we use archaic, but it's just a lot of manual processes. And so, the financial crisis happened, loan modifications, home retention, there was a lot of volume hit and really was kind of unprepared for it. And so what happened since the financial crisis, everyone started moving to technology, using efficiencies within technology. So when the COVID crisis happened, and really we were prepared for it. And we came out, in fact, I think the entire industry was viewed as actually heroes of really being able to handle applications quickly and much have quicker responses and so forth to consumers. I challenge everybody right now to do the same thing again with this kind of crisis. Yes, not saying me a COVID crisis, but I would love for us to come out of this stronger than we were before. And technology is the answer. It really is. I mean, looking at things and say, just because I did it this way for many, many years, and I think Alan nailed it too, make sure your partner has that embedded in their core solutions. If they're just kind of just doing the status quo all the time, I really strongly consider looking at other partners that really want to marry that with cutting edge technology, and then talking to you and say, how does my technology make you better? And it's not kind of out of the box, it's one size fits all, but how can I adapt my technology to you, because everyone's a little different, and that's a good thing too. So yeah, I would love for us to come out of it stronger, because history shows that we did this once before and we did come out stronger. I think we should do it again.
Okay. And then we've got just a few minutes left. So if you are in attendance and would like to ask a question, please feel free to do so. Drop it in the chat or the Q&A and we will address that. In the last couple of minutes here, what are the top pieces of advice that you'd give lenders looking to find a competitive advantage in 2023?
I'm going to kick it off because I'm super passionate about this one. It's really simple. Get your teams involved. I know I sit at my desk and I can come up with a million trillion things that I want to do or push out or roll out, but I'm not the one that has to live and breathe it and execute it every day. And so really giving your teams that voice to not just test and work the bugs out, but have a part of that decision making. Is this actually going to make an impact? Are we actually going to get an ROI? Can, whether it's technology as we're rolling it out or building it out, is this going to help us reduce mistakes and then get a faster sale on the backside of it? That purchase advice that we're all trying to obtain so fast. So making sure that, you have them involved, that's just absolutely from top down and back up, because that's going to, like I said, just create that adoption, create that buy-in, and really build a team that's going to weather the storm and, to Jim's point, be stronger on the backside of it all.
I agree. And I kind of think that we're at a stage in our mortgage evolution, especially all of us who are veterans sitting around this table today, that we will just do anything and everything possible to make it happen.
Yeah, I'll maybe go a little bit left field here, just from my some of the time I spent in my career. I think it's a really interesting opportunity to invest in your brand and marketing in your area. I think, as consumers, obviously rate is extremely important, but so many purchases we make are based on brand. And I think Thrive is a perfect example that's done a ton in building a strong brand and start to have that feeling and emotion of what it's like working with a lender outside of the kind of core process itself and what rate you get. And so I think it's an interesting time. We have a little bit more time There's not loans literally falling from the sky. So it's an interesting time to evaluate how can we go. What is our brand in the marketplace? How can we make sure that's becoming strong and becoming a bigger part of the consumers that we work with, and I think hopefully get rewards in the short term, but definitely in the long term when volume ramps up.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you guys so much. We really appreciate this expert panel. Maxwell, love you guys. Thank you for being such an active, engaged member of the Mortgage Collaborative, and Thrive, you as well. Just really appreciate all that you guys do for us. Thank you for this information. To the audience, thank you guys for stopping by today. I want to let you know and remind you that there'll be a follow-up email that comes out in the next couple of days. It'll have a report regarding the information that was talked about today, as well as a link to this recording. We've also got 12 days of TMC that's coming up. If you haven't already registered, please feel free to do so. 12 days of TMC is our virtual event. It's $395 to register your whole company to join us. And we've got 12 days of programming, keynote speakers, industry leaders, as well as amazing agenda topics just like this. So please feel free to stop by and register today. Thank you guys again. Really appreciate you. And from TMC Connect, everybody have a great day. Stay safe if you're in the weather. Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.